We live?
It's loading. Says we're live.
All right,
Yeah.
says we're live.
And nobody. I'll let you know when we start.
Okay.
I'm giving you numbers when we start saying people.
All right, so
Okay.
got a few people on.
Thanks for rejoining us. Super sorry about the technical difficulties. It's probably my fault.
We have 6 right now. I'll let you know when we get to about 20, 25, we can start talking again.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Just blink a lot until then.
YouTube's down. Just chug.
Yeah,
waiting
we
for
just drink.
Oh, I use a little bit.
Yeah, why not?
Sorry, I made this
All
really.
right, we're up to 20. Sorry, guys.
All right.
YouTube live stream is down. It looks like it's spotty, but it's working right now.
All right, thank you guys for sticking with us.
Awesome. So little interruption there. I don't know. Thanks. People are chiming in. Bruce Cook, Scott Doris, John Zacco. Thanks for joining us again. Thanks for being technical assistants out there in the world and helping us figure out what's going on, what's not going on. So we're back. We're back on the blend. So it's this winemaker's blend where I get to kind of open canvas outside of staying in the vintage. That's pretty much been no holds barred. Because I'm fascinated by LeGrind, I tend to build it around that.
Yeah.
Which is fun. And here I've played in Syrah and Malbec to just go for fruit fun. The result's awesome. I think it's our most kind of joyous and lifted Bon Vivant to date.
Mm-hmm.
Aromatically, it does have berries that have weight to them. There's a density of maybe like Olalla berries or like overripe strawberries, maybe some kind of early summer blackberries, and with maybe a little road dust on them. I don't know. It's got there's a perfume that is exciting and draws me to the glass. Maybe it's these fancy new glasses, but I think it's a fancy new wine. Maybe it's both. So there's a succulence or a sweetness of the berries that's beguiling and makes me want to dive in.
Yeah.
So when you're the rosé does this to me too, but when your salivary glands get a little pump, when you're juiced up to take a sip, that's always a good sign.
I would say this is the wine.
Yeah, you don't think it's the glass?
It's great, but the glass is great, but the wine is just. It fires on all cylinders.
Yeah, and then the mid palate weight and fruit profile matches it perfect with aromatics. So like what you smell, it totally delivers on that. There's a succulence and a juicy roundness to the wine, and that just kind of like melts away in every direction in such a nice way. It's a super fun wine. There is some like tannin structure that keeps it all interesting, a lot like the rosé has. But it's fun and fruity in a way that's serious at the same time. So it would be really flexible with food pairing. I think this would go nice with I'd like it with some spicy food.
I absolutely. Or I was thinking of something really savory, like
a rosemary crostini or something with some nice cheese would be lovely.
Or some like a mushroom pate.
Yeah,
there's such a thing.
Could be great.
Something with anchovies.
Yeah.
Subtle flavor.
It would be really flexible with food pairings. Both of them would be, and both of them have a lot of, they both like fight above their weight. Let's say. So that's fun. And then the curious note that she so nicely made for me: 93% Leopoldina, 7% Fortuna, and so it would have to be the Malbec coming from Fortuna, as we don't have any Syrah or LeGrind there. So the Malbec was 33% of the blend, so 26%, I'm a mathematician here, 26% of the blend is Leopoldina Malbec, and 7% is Fortuna Malbec, which doesn't say how many barrels we made, I kind of forget. I think the bottles now say that. I don't know. So that would probably be like 1 barrel of Malbec from Fortuna and 3 barrels of Malbec from Leopoldina. You kind of get the scale of how much of this wine we make. And then LeGrind would have been 2 barrels of LeGrind and something like that all adds up to about 8. So it would have been about 8 barrels of Syrah. And so there's the whole composition. And the Syrah would have all been from up on the hill. So as in the newer issuances of this wine, they're waiting in the cellar, like the 2019. I feel like I told the story before, maybe on these videos, but maybe not. The 2019 Bon Vivant, I'm really, instead of I'm constructing it earlier. So I know it's a wine that we're going to make. I'm planning what we're going to do years in advance. So like, for instance, in 2019, or after the 2017 fire in Calistoga at the Menace Vineyard, the Syrah block, one of the Syrah blocks there, the fire came up over this ridge line, and like flamethrowers killed half the block of Syrah. They didn't die right away. They like died 2 years later. I think maybe the trunks got too hot and brittle, or changed the structure of the sap flow, something. And so we've replanted half that block with Grenache, which is exciting.
Yeah,
so that'll be like an interesting and important piece of Bon Vivant in the future. And then we'll have our first fruit from that in about 2 more years. So it's you make these decisions, and the payoff is like 5 years away from fruit. Then we ferment it, age it for 2 years, age it for another year in the bottle. So like from planting that baby Grenache vine to putting Grenache in Bon Vivant is like an 8-year process. Yeah. And I've only been at Turnbull for 13 years, so choices that I make, hopefully I'll be around to get to see them come to total fruition. And hopefully you'll still be enjoying our wines. So it is a long relationship that we have with the earth and with the vines and with each other, and we really appreciate that. But in 19, we brought on a new tool specifically for the Bon Vivant, and that is a 2,000 liter or 20 hectoliter wooden upright tank. So it's a French oak tank made by the family that makes all the wooden tanks for a famous Rhone producer. And one of our favorite cooperages is now working with this gentleman who's made these tanks. And so we were lucky enough to have, I think, one of the 4 of them that they brought into the United States last year. It's beautiful. So when you get to come back to the cellar, you get to see that. And we have Syrah that's in the tank. And it was fermented on its stems. So we have 100% whole cluster Syrah resting in this tank.
Nice.
And it's really, it's going to be a special wine. And that will probably, no offense to the Lagrein, we don't have enough Lagrein to fill the tank. We need a very much smaller tank.
So what does a tank like that do to the wine?
Well, there's less surface area of tank touching the wine, and there's a much slower maturation process in the tank, so it maintains more freshness. The tank, since it's a tank that we'll use for decades, hopefully, is heavier roasted. I was a little bit worried at first that it would be. I typically use like some pretty seasoned French oak barrels for our Syrah because I want it to remain delicate and fresh for this wine. So we're not usually like hitting the Syrah with new oak because I want it to show off its Syrah-ness. And the tank being brand new is pretty flashy, but it's pretty flashy. It tastes pretty great. I thought initially that I'd ferment the Syrah in the tank and then take it out of the tank, and I'd put some Cabernet in the tank to try to like basically shave off some of the high impact oak notes. And then in a few years, we'd come back and put Syrah in the tank after we'd like taken away some of the toastier, roasted bread and heavier toasting notes that are in that tank. But I've stuck with it so far. We're gonna rack the Syrah probably next week out of the tank. And then put it back in the tank. My thought would be that we would have racked it already, and then when we did that, we wouldn't put the Syrah back in and put it in very seasoned French oak barrels. But the current plan is that we put it back in the tank. We've got another barrel of that same lot. Doesn't fit in the tank, but when we do the racking, that'll get in the tank too. And so we'll have that tank full. And it's kind of an exciting piece. That'll be when the 2019 Bon Vivant comes out, I'm fully expecting that to play a central role in that wine. The Lagrein would become Like it's a side hustle. So it's kind of fun.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Got a question for you. Gary Roll asked a question earlier about the rosé and the Cab Franc and the virus spreading. And does that mean anything for the future of those wines?
No, I mean the virus is like full on in those vineyard blocks. So in a good way, it can't get any worse. I don't know. It's like the virus there is total. So we do have brand new blocks of Cabernet Franc at Fortuna that are the succession plan for that block. Someday that block will need to be removed. We're on a long plan, a 20-year vineyard plan that does show that block being removed at some point in the future. It depends on when. I'd have to look it up, but we planted its replacement block. Second or third fruit was last year, so I don't know, like 2012 or 13. We planted the beginning of the replacement for that block, and then 2 years ago we replanted even higher up on the alluvial fan on even better rockier soil. The second wave of its replacement, and together they form, both soil aspects that are in the existing block in different ways. So actually be able to like spread up higher on the alluvial fan and also a little bit lower on the more fluvial soil, which have freshness and more texture, and they'll be segregated, so we'll be able to actually see those components separately. And then once those are fully involved with tasting like the Fortuna vineyard, then we would at that time don't tell Old Block that it's next on the grinding stone, but someday when its replacement blocks come into their fullness, which hopefully will be in the next 5 or 10 years, it's hard to say. But if that would occur, then we would remove the old block and replace it in its same place with more Cab Franc. So we're planning ahead about that. Want to stay consistent and highlight place, but at the same time be thinking about the future. And when I'm replanting vineyard blocks, you always want to consider not what my personal preference might be, but like what some future people will want to have. Hopefully the blocks, the way that we replant, the row orientation, the rootstocks, the clonal material, the variety that we plant, the trellising system, all that stuff that we design and think about and care about. Hopefully it's something that stands the test of time, and that 40 years from now, that those blocks are still fruitful and useful for some future winemaker and some future wine enjoyer. If we don't think about that long game, then we'll make choices that might pay off better earlier, but won't have the long game. So I try to think about it that way, so that we're really thinking very, very long term about that, for things that we'll never see. Like if I don't replant that Cab Franc block in the next 10 years, and it takes 5 years to come to fruit, and another 2 years of barrel aging, and a year before release is 18 years from now. Not to give away my age, but I'm hoping I'll be retired in 18 years. So I'll probably, if I replant that vineyard block, I will not get to have the fun of playing with that fruit, probably, in any substantial way. So we're always thinking about the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, do you have any other questions?
No, I mean, we're pretty much caught up.
That's
I
good.
think people were a little thrown off with the video switch, but
Most people were able to re-find us at least from the set that held on.
yeah, we have about 48 viewers. So
Great, thanks.
we do have one. Is the Bonne a wine to lay down, or is it?
It is. I do think it is a wine to lay down. I mean, I guess I believe that all our wines are really laying down. In fact, I think I had like a bottle of one of the first vintages of Josephine the other day,
Oh wow.
and it was like I was like, I don't know, it's probably gonna be kind of sketchy because I don't know, it's Sauvignon Blanc. Like how my plan wasn't to like lay the thing down, and I think it kicked around my fridge for a couple months. So that could be hard on a wine too. And then it was stunning, so that's fun. In general, I like to tell people that I think our wines and most red wines made on the planet Earth that are worth. I mean, most red wine or most wine that's made on the planet Earth is a technical product. Like 95% of wine is made to be enjoyed right away. And that the small subset of wine, if you know about Turnbull, you're already interested in the small subset of wine that is craft wine about place and time. Our wines are eminently suitable to laying down and enjoying later. They're not really designed to like buy and drink that moment. You can do that, and they are enjoyable to do that with, but they will get better with time. That said, they don't get better with time forever. They're not like they're more like a piece of nice cheese than like a piece of gold jewelry. They're not eternal. I think that means that most of our wines are best 5 to 10 years after the vintage date. So this is a 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So in that very gross approximation, this wine would kind of like get into its fullness in 2021 and hang out there till 2026 and then start fading. And what does that mean? As wines age and mature, if you have proper storage, so I'm talking, you're storing your wine somewhere between like 56 and 59 degrees, which sounds like a pretty small band, but it's totally doable in many people's basements or crawl spaces, or you can buy a double wide refrigerator on eBay for not much money. Not a food fridge, but a wine fridge. And so probably, if you're into wine, it's worth getting a wine fridge. Or finding the cool, dark place where you live. Most people can create this in some sense, and if you have that storage, then it's worth laying bottles down, and they do get better with time. As that happens, fruit density thins, delicate fruit esters fade, and but tannin and structural elements round and smooth. So if you kind of think of initially the wine could have like a stegosaurus spine of like texture and structure, and over the top of that is this like beautiful fruit cap that like hides that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some place in the aging process where the fruit starts to melt away, and there's an awkward moment where you like start seeing structural elements that like seem austere or drying or bitter or tannic and like not very much fun, and like where did my fruit go? And then later, in deep aging, then the spine starts to like disintegrate, let's say, and the fruit starts showing off again. So you do get like different. That's at least how I imagine it. You do get different phases where at different time you can open a bottle one year and be like, oh, I don't like that, and then the next year you'd be like, oh my god, it's fantastic. And people might think that that's like bottle to bottle variation. It can be depending on the producer, but in general, it's more that like wines go through phases just like we do. As people or your kids or your coworkers, people come and go and have different attributes that are attractive or detractive over time. And the wines can do the same thing. But I think in that zone of 5 to 10 years in general, you kind of hit like the Goldilocks zone. And outside of that, earlier than that or later than that, earlier than that, you're going to get more fruit opulence and succulence and power and delicate aromas. And after that, if you're lucky, you're going to get smooth, round, mellowing, and more. That some of that fruit density is going to become like tobacco leaf or evolve into more tertiary tones. In general, I'm not tannin sensitive, so I'll take more aggressive tannins and structure elements, and I'll take that with that fruit opulence and aromatic lift that you get from young wines. But I tend to like wines younger rather than like older. The older wines, like very old wines, become great, not because the wine's great, but because it's a time capsule and it transports the taster back to that time. So I've had some fantastic older wines that are fantastic because of the company you're with, or because of the time that they came from, but not because the wine was organoleptically like the wowzers. But this wine is a total baby. You get like 2016 is a vintage that's pretty Chockerbock. I mean, it's got like a lot of tannin and structure, and it's got a lot of fruit density, and it's kind of like it's a little bit like everything's going going pretty full force. And so there's plenty of tannin structure to hold up for the long haul, has nice natural acidity, and there's a lot of fruit density. So like this has tons of tannin and structure that is going to, as it subdues, is going to smooth them around, and that'll be a good thing. And the fruit density, there's so much of it that even as that diminishes and mellows, there's going to be plenty to like cover over all the structural elements. So I don't know. I think that would be totally enjoyable for the next 10 years.
I am.
Most common question we get every week: food you would pair with bon vivant.
Pizza.
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 I think I sent out a recipe for, well, it was a list of recipes of, there was a list of 15 pizza recipes. And of those recipes, there's an anchovy pizza, which I know sounds really gross. It's very controversial.
Ugh.
You said anchovy twice.
I know, but I'm a recent anchovy fan. I've been using it more in my cooking because I came around to it.
Wow.
It just melts if you cook it right. It doesn't taste fishy.
Wow.
So there's an anchovy pizza that I've been wanting to make, and I think I'd pair it
That
with
does
this
sound
one.
like it would be good.
But like a good pizza with like a goat's cheese and some artichokes and asparagus and other kind of veggies you can find that would go great with the rosé. Sounds delicious.
Brian McFarland says he'd like the dogs to make an appearance in an upcoming virtual
Oh, do you
tasting.
have
Are they
this
here?
now?
They're not here. No,
No.
they aren't here today. We will possibly next week. I have 2 of the dogs, and then Toby Sanders' dog is Gimli is here as well, which you might have met. But I don't know if we can get
Very cute.
Gimli to come in.
I don't understand.
Toby
Who's this
bring him.
Gimli? I thought his name was Tater Tank.
Oh, don't say that out loud. We know.
We are waiting on our issues of Wine Dogs, right?
We are.
The
We have.
new issue of Wine Dogs has Turnbull dogs in it.
Yes, we have a. Well, we might be on a cover of the Wine Dogs.
What?
Or at least we ordered some books with our dogs on the cover.
The Wine Dog
I think
books,
there's
yeah.
the best picture that they will have taken, but there's a new issue of Wine Dogs coming out. It was supposed to come out this fall or
In May
summer,
originally
or
was
May.
when we were
Yes.
supposed to get the first copies. I think it's pushed back.
I'm assuming it got pushed back because I haven't heard from the authors, but Gimli, Tater Tank, Nina, and Lucille all make a great appearance on it.
Why don't you tell us about that glassware?
So we were hoping to, at some point this spring, obviously with the pandemic, this will certainly be pushed to perhaps the fall or next year. Everything's
Another couple weeks, we'll get it.
What's the logo on it? SW?
So it's the name of the glassware company. These are Sophie walled glasses, and they are a very lightweight, very fine crystal glass from, I want to say Switzerland?
A foreign country.
I want to say they're Austrian or Swiss, but these are very special stemware for our new tasting experience that, like I said, not announcing it officially, just something we would like to launch soon. It's a library tasting experience.
It's pretty crazy. I love the Schatzwitzel glass, but in comparison, it's sort of ridiculous. It makes us feel like
A big
like
bulky glass, I know.
Yeah, it makes it like I think of this glass as like a fantastic, like all around glass. You can use it for all kinds of things. But I think of this glass as a fairly elegant glass. It's lightweight and has a great like mid center point and like always feels good. And in comparison, it feels like I'm like holding a holding like a Suburban or something, and this is a Maserati. And I'm like, wow. I had
They're
like,
different. I mean,
it's
this is not
ridiculous.
to belittle the Turnbull glass, but this is just part of the new tasting experience.
Out of
We're
control.
hoping to launch.
I feel like it's a little like tight though. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's because I have a big nose, but it feels like a little like I don't know.
It's a good tasting glass.
It's pretty fancy.
For library tasting, where we're tasting older wines, we thought that this glass would be good for library wines and better for tasting smaller amounts.
It feels fantastic.
It feels great.
The feel of the glass. I mean, and that is part of the enjoyment of drinking wine.
Mhm.
And you get something different out of a wine glass than drinking wine out of a coffee cup. Not that I've ever done that, but
No, never.
if the glass that glass feels great on your lips and in your fingers, that's pretty exciting. It's going to be worth coming in and doing this new tasting if there ever is one. Not that there won't ever be one, but we're just not announcing it.
Not announcing it, just sharing a little sneak preview. There's only how many people? There's very few people watching that. I would imagine you guys will keep this a secret between us right here. But when you hear an announcement from us, who knows when? Don't be surprised. That's what this is all about.
First step, come out of quarantine.
Yes.
Second step, get a tasting going.
Yes. So that's for this new.
Well, when we do open up, we're gonna be. I mean, we have the beautiful patio, multiple tasting areas. It's gonna be
Turnbull will
super
one of
easy
the
to like
better places to
come here and totally
because
be
our
safe.
space just lends itself to being social distant.
Plus, our awesome office manager RJ is in the best way, very focused on being safe. He's been like wiping everything down continuously and keeping everything completely spick and span. And he's also been diligently working on how to imagine the sanitation stuff that we'll need to have you guys back safely. And our awesome tasting manager Joseph and Tom have been talking about how to space everything out and reorganize furniture and do all that stuff. So while you're away, we've been doing a ton of work to get everything ready to be even better and safer and cooler when you come back.
And like I said earlier, we don't know when that is, but hopefully we're announcing that and this month or next month. Don't take my word.
It looked like Oregon was, or not to send you up to Oregon to go wine tasting, but it did look like Oregon was maybe opening up their tasting rooms.
Good for Oregon.
Has all of the rosés had? Christopher Solar says he has 2014 Lagrein rosé.
Yeah.
Was it all?
Turnbull?
How many rosés did you do with the Lagrein grape? Have we used? Maybe he's talking about Blanc de Blanc.
I don't remember a rosé made from Lagrein.
How many glasses have you had, Christopher? Like, when did you start drinking? Are you on the East Coast?
I don't know. It's totally possible. Once we make the wines, you send them off in the world and hope they come back someday and have done amazing stuff. But I'm usually forward facing into I'm thinking about vineyard plantings that won't make fruit for 10 years. So I'm not very much thinking about the rosé that we made in 2014. But I could try to figure that out.
14 rosé?
14.
We did, maybe we made rosé back in 14.
I don't know if we made rosé.
I don't remember.
It would have been pinker.
Yeah, the rosé has gotten lighter and lighter as we've.
Was this year darker than last year though?
This year's a little bit darker than last year.
We are not using Zalto glassware, Sean. We looked at Zalto glass, right? Didn't we look at Zalto glassware? This glass is super similar to the Zalto glass with the weight and everything. Probably a half, if not a third of the price of the Zalto glassware. Zalto glassware
But just
super
actually
expensive.
not more durable.
Yeah, a little more durable.
Our friends at Compline in Napa, if you guys are ever hopefully visiting the valley in the
Duck
next
fat
few
fries as
months,
well.
that's great. Great wine shop and wine bar with a great food menu, and these are their glasses of choice. And that's where a lot of the intel into these glasses came from, was from Compline. So we'll shout out to Compline. Tom, do we have any other questions? Because I feel like we might be wrapping up soon because I have a few announcements just.
Yeah, well, I think you should roll into those.
Okay.
Else.
So it's getting warmer across the country, so we want your wines to arrive uncooked, safe, and drinkable. So please, when you see temperature-controlled shipping as a shipping option, please select that. That will ensure that we can send it through the right carrier that does very, what's the word? Trusted packing process where they packing cold packs with the wine. And then I believe, Tom, they go to a hub and they switch them out halfway through. So please choose the temperature controlled shipping, because if the wine arrives to your house and it's cooked, that's no fun for everyone. So that's just an update on our temperature controlled shipping, which is now listed as a shipping option now on our website. If you select for ground shipping, it does count as toward that $1 ground shipping on minimum bottle purchases of 4 bottles or more, so it will apply. But please select that, because we hate to receive wine back that we can't then enjoy at the winery.
It was Lagrein.
It was
Really?
Lagrein.
Nice.
Megan just forwarded that. She's
Yeah, Ryan Rosé.
she's sifting through files.
Okay.
2014 Rosé of Lagrian. Christopher, I apologize. You're not drunk. That is
Nice. Thank you, Christopher.
Is it Christopher Marvin? Because that's my dad.
It is not. It's Chris
Okay.
Sellers.
Well, if it's Chris Marvin.
It's Darren Marvin's been heavy-handed on the comments today. I just want to say.
Hi, Mom. So that's the note on the temperature control chipping. Next week, our next virtual live tasting will be our 2010 Venus Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh,
This is actually one of the original wines that we kind of threw together as part of the original lineup for virtual tastings before we realized that this was really, this lockdown was going to take hold. So this is, if you probably have heard about this virtual tasting if you've been reading your emails that we've been sending since March about these. So This is the 2010 Venus Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon. So if you have it in your cellar, get it ready. If you have any bottle of Venus Vineyard Cab, that works too.
Well, I'll probably find some other wines to break out with the 2010 Menace.
It's a single vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon from Calistoga, so it's I think one of our coolest vineyards. You've talked about it very highly in the last few weeks.
And you have not released the June schedule yet. You said.
We have not.
But on that schedule will be the other white wine. We are
yes.
special member wine.
Do you want me to announce that, Tom?
Yeah, let's talk about it because
So-
it'll be in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
where we're
that's
gonna
true.
release it.
So we've had a Josephine that you guys have tasted. We have a rosé that we're tasting now, and then in a few weeks we will be releasing another members only wine. So the members getting access to these wines. We are re-releasing, or no, not re-releasing. We're releasing for the second time now, a few years, our white label not Cabernet Sauvignon.
Wow.
Sauvignon Blanc. Wow, what a messy delivery.
We
Tom.
should have wrote
Put me
this
on the
down.
spot here. It's our white label, so it is a very cool Sauvignon Blanc. It's unfiltered. It's
Unfiltered, yeah.
Unfiltered,
So-
so
The single barrel, no, it was two
Two
barrels.
barrels?
In 2019, I had two special barrels of Sauvignon Blanc that I thought were particularly interesting for their structural elements and the kind of punch that they had. And we bottled them dirty, so to speak, no filtration. So the wine has a little bit of lees in the bottle,
wow.
and so we bottled it in the same bottle that we use for Black Label, so that people don't get freaked out when they see like a cloudy bomb of Sauvignon Blanc in a bottle. That would be like disconcerting. That'll be fun. I haven't actually tasted it since we bottled it. So literally there were like 41 and a half cases or something like that.
There was such a small. I think it was 41 6-packs though. Wasn't it a really small amount?
Yeah, it's
When in 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. And the first time we did this in 2016, we had a single barrel, and this year I found two barrels that I thought were special. We didn't make one in 2018, so I guess it was 17 and 19 that we've done this, and it's just something fun, something different, and by doing those little projects, it both I think is engaging for our members to have something particularly artful and different from Turnbull, and it's also great for my cellar team and vineyard team to see the result of different techniques or different vineyard practices that we do, and they get to see that come to fruition in a bottle, and then we bottle it in a different way. And when you do things that are a little bit off the beaten path, keeps you alive and keeps you engaged. So there's lots of ancillary benefits to changing things up, and this is one of the ways that we've done that in 2019. And I think it's exciting wine. We have great winemaking consultants, David and Catherine DeSanti. If you haven't heard of DeSanti wines, you want to check that out. They make some fantastic white wines and red wines, and they look over my shoulder and make sure that I'm doing a good job for you. And they're really a guiding force behind the white label in terms of like how to properly rack that wine, how much lees residual is a useful thing and how much is not. The quality of the lees. They do a lot of work with lees. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but I think Catherine's background as a pastry chef and David's work in sparkling wine lead them to having some special understanding of how that works. And it's been a good learning process for me too to to get this to see that. It's a fun wine.
It's very cool. So
Yeah.
look out for that release numbers in your emails in the next couple of weeks. Tom, there will be an allocation, correct, for this?
There will be an allocation on the wine. It will be a member-only wine, much like rosé. We just don't have enough to sell outside of the membership, so we haven't decided on the allocation yet. But it will be for you members only, and so we will get you guys an email out when that does release, and it'll be it's just a great wine. It's super fun.
Well, and then next week we have the menus on Thursday, but on Tuesday we'll be part of a tasting
So
with Karen
a
McNeil.
couple other tastings I want to mention about the month of May. So on May 19th, it's a Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Peter's doing a tasting with Karen McNeil, who is world-renowned wine writer, wine expert, and author of the Wine Bible, which is kind of if you're into wine. I bet you have a copy at home.
The Wine Bible.
It's the Wine Bible. Peter will be doing a tasting with Karen and our fellow vintners at Nickel and Gargiulo to talk about some great wines of Oakville. Peter will be tasting the 2016 Fortuna Cab. If you have any Cabernet Sauvignon from Oakville, that's from Turnbull in your cellar, open it up. If not, just watch along. I think it'll be a really cool, very interactive tasting over Zoom with Karen. And Karen has such great insight into just the world of wine. And
There's
talking with some
the
different
email that you
vendors.
sent out yesterday about that, right?
Yes,
There's a
it's
link to sign up for that?
There's a link in that email and on our website, on the events tab of our website, with a link to sign up for that Zoom webinar. It's completely free. Anyone can sign up. You don't have to have the wine. It's great if you do. If you have any wine from Oakville, I'm sure it'll be relevant. But that's happening on Tuesday at 4:30. So slight different time change from our usual 4 o'clock standing tasting here. And then on May 27th, you have a tasting with Tom Hyland, who's a writer for Forbes.com, which is really cool. Tom's he's an expert more also on Italian wines, but he's kind of venturing into California wines, and I think it'll be another kind of cool Q&A style tasting with Tom and Peter over Zoom. Tom will be creating that link himself and sending that to us before the tasting goes live, so we'll give you guys a couple days notice with the link to that Zoom meeting. Again, completely complimentary and free, just register ahead of time and join. So that's and then of course, yes, we have our Venus Cabernet Sauvignon tasting next week, and then the week following we have kind of a cellar barrel sampling.
Oh yeah?
Fun, yeah. Have you heard
Oh,
about
nice.
that?
No, you told me about it.
But we'll be in the cellar with Peter. If we can get, we'll test the Wi-Fi. I'm sure it'll work, but
Yeah, if not, we'll bring all the barrels in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were you invited him, right?
Peter knows about the tasting. He's just he's being funny. Other than that, that's really it for me.
Did you get a song ready, by the way?
Actually with
It's spinning. The turntable's spinning.
well,
We've
I
got the
have a
needle
song
up.
in another album
Really? Let's do it.
that
When's
I
it
was
gonna be?
gonna, it's Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin.
Carrie's queuing up A Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin.
Just because it was a high energy moment in here when we're
Sweet.
preparing to be without you.
Nice. Carrie's dropping the needle right now. Classic song, of course. Favorite. Carrie's gonna turn it up a little bit because when this song, you gotta really crank it. That's not turned up, Carrie. Thank you for joining us,
Thank you, everyone.
and we appreciate your patience with our technical difficulties today and your love of our wines, love of wine. And we're humbled and honored that you would think to spend an hour of your week with us. And we can't wait till we can do it in person and get you guys out here and pull them forward for you. And when we do that, we're really going to turn the song out and open way to new ones. So thank you.
Crank it.
Oh, we're gonna crank it again.
Cheers.
Is that loud enough?
I'm